Office spaces in Metro Manila were abruptly vacated after the exit of Pogos. Landlords now face pressure to repurpose while tenants find themselves in a stronger negotiating position. To unpack this, we have Colliers Philippines' Jasmine Margaret Estrella and Kim Bernardino Luta. So, starting with Jasmine, how has the Pogo shutdown impacted vacancy rates within Metro Manila?
The exit of POGOs, while it has primarily affected the vacancy increase in the Bay Area, when we take a look at other submarkets like Makati Fringe and Alabang, yes, they may experience prolonged vacancies, but seeing Metro Manila office market as a whole, we're already seeing positive signs because of the volume of transactions increasing, mainly driven by traditional office occupiers and BPOs.
And given this situation, what repurposing strategies are gaining traction among developers? And maybe let's also discuss the risks that investors and developers should be aware of.
Okay, when a market is leaning in favor of tenants, of course, it gives investors and occupiers the chance to negotiate more flexible terms. While it's also the perfect time for developers to rethink how they position their available spaces. Because right now, what we're seeing, we have an upcoming more than 600,000 square meters of warm and bare shell spaces that's going to compete with those pre-fitted spaces. So we think that it's time for the landlords and developers to step up because from our experience with their clients, they are leaning towards choosing those spaces that they can fit out on their own. Because if they're going to choose those as is or vacated, Pogo vacated spaces, it's going to cost them more time and money.
Yeah, and to add, because we're seeing a strong shift for flexibility and customization for these clients, so some developers are repurposing their Pogo floors into more adaptable office spaces. So, since the demand, as Jasmine said, right now is leaning towards traditional office formats and smaller units, they often prefer warm or bare shell that they can fit out to their specifications. Since these Pogo spaces were fitted out very quickly, so the layout is typically dense and has a high volume, which is not a priority for the upcoming market. So we suggest that the developers need to have an allocation for or an additional capital expenditure to furnish those POGO spaces and to increase their marketability. In my experience, it's very rare for companies to utilize an as-is, which was left by the POGO spaces. So most of the time, transactions are successful when the developers help their clients to repurpose those spaces. So even if they lower rates on those spaces and floors, a time and effort is still a critical factor when it comes to tenant preference. On a much broader level, companies that are under cost pressure may actually utilize and take advantage of the competitive markets for Metro Manila and Cebu. But of course, at the same time, developers should align with the actual demand that is needed for for the market. And lastly, the success in this transition hinges on knowing your market, of course, being strategically proactive and agile in response to local and business shifts.
And taking everything that you've just mentioned into consideration, how do you both see the office market adjusting in the next maybe 12 to 18 months?
We are hopeful that the improved performance in the first quarter of 2025 will set a positive tone for the rest of the year. We've already seen 66% of new deals from expansions and new setups, with traditional office occupiers leading in terms of spaces being taken up, while BPOs continue to secure large sizes of deals.
Yeah, and another factor that may affect the office market is development on US tariffs. So while this mainly concern goods and merchandise, it may still indirectly affect the office market industry, which is one of the drivers here in Metro Manila. Since, as US tariffs rise, rising pressures on American consumers and businesses to manage costs may further encourage outsourcing here in the Philippines.
That's right. And also, in addition to that, the potential additional interest rate cut of our Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas could also help boost business confidence, which may encourage more companies to establish or grow their footprint here. So yeah, overall, we're seeing a positive outlook in the market, although it's too early to tell that we're going to fully recover this year. We ended 2024 with a negative net take up, not solely because of POGOs, but also because of other factors like pandemic leases expiring, our clients rationalizing spaces, geopolitical concerns, new supply, and all that. But it's actually good news to see that the transaction activity in the market is now picking up.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you so much for your time today, Jasmine and Kim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Once again, those were Colliers Philippines, Jasmine Margaret Estrella, negotiator for office services and tenant representation, and Kim Bernardino Luta, manager for office services and tenant representation. For more news, visit realestateasia.com.